Hello, Anomaly here. Welcome to another Quick Bites video. Today, we're going to be talking about Garb of the Grand Upwelling, or as everybody knows it, our new tier bonuses. Without further ado, let's jump right in. So first off, we're going to do a little bit of a tooltip overview, just sort of read through, understand what it says. Then we'll go into a little bit more detail on each of the tier bonuses, both the 2-piece and the 4-piece. And then finally, go even deeper and basically give a more broader explanation of what the 4-piece bonus is doing, particularly to our spells. So first up, the tooltips. This will be both the 2-piece and the 4-piece. The 2-piece grandiose font reads, Essence Font's residual healing effect is increased by 5% and lasts an additional 2 seconds. And then the 4-piece Tea of the Grand Upwelling reads, Drinking Thunder Focus Tea summons a progenitor rune of healing, increasing all healing dealt while inside of its bounds by 450. The heck do both these mean? All right, first up, the 2-piece bonus. Basically, Essence Font Hots last 2 seconds longer baseline. They go from being 8 seconds baseline to now 10 seconds baseline. They also heal for about 5% more. This bonus itself will be generally unnoticeable. The additional duration is nice, however, and because it's baseline, your extensions from Rising Mist and things like that, they'll just be longer, be around a little bit longer, which is always good. The 4-piece, however, does something a little bit different. It drops a rune at your feet for 10 seconds. And then while you're standing in that rune, all healing done by you is increased by 450, but only while you're within the bounds of that rune. The rune itself is triggered when you press or when you cast Thunder Focus Tea, not when you use the buff. So keep that in mind. If you're gonna use the buff, you want to basically want to press Thunder Focus Tea and use the buff as soon as possible. Get it on cooldown, get more uses out of Thunder Focus Tea over the course of a fight. Finally, the rune on the ground is a 10-yard radius, so it is fairly large. You can move around it a lot. You can dodge melee abilities with it. So while it's not massive, it's definitely not extremely small. You do give you a little bit of leeway in terms of your movement. So how should you use your 4-piece? First up, you want to try and use it as often as possible with any buff like this. And you really only want to hold it for specific instances or specific maybe healing events coming up. You also want to try and use it when you're not making any sort of large moves. So examples of sort of both of these, right? For instance, like in Desagne, if you know Desagne is about to port and you're not already standing on that port spot, you might want to hold Thunder Focus Tea if it's off cooldown, or it's coming off cooldown with the next couple seconds and the port's not for 10 or so seconds. Holding on to it there makes sense. Also, you may want to hold it because Anduin's Barrier cast is coming up. Again, Barrier, you need a lot of healing at that point. Having Rune up, having 4-piece up during that time, a huge buff to your healing, allows you to maybe get through that barrier a little bit easier. So again, you want to hold it for those strategic instances. Don't hold it for 20, 25 seconds. Essentially, you're just wasting a cast of it. Use it as often as possible, but keep in mind abilities or sort of movement coming up that you may want to hold off on using it just so you don't waste the rune. Also, there is somewhat of an optimal cast sequence. I'm going to show something up here. However, you can, you don't have to always follow it. This doesn't mean you always have to cast in this way. I just keep in mind if you're trying to line it up, trying to use as many of the events as possible as you can, this is probably the best way to look at it. So the way this works is essentially you'll start with a Refreshing Jadewind cast, right into an Essence Font cast, and then towards the end of that Essence Font cast, you will then cast Thunder Focus Tea, essentially dropping the rune. It'll use, the second half of your Refreshing Jadewind, and any Essence Font hots that are out already will get that increased healing. You'll then want to cast Vivify, and immediately as that Vivify cast ends, cast Rising Sun Kick, hopefully getting both buffed by Thunder Focus Tea. Then within that GCD window, you can cast Chi Burst. If you have gotten the RSK to reset, you would cast RSK again. If not, Refreshing Jadewind. And then it's either Vivify or Tiger Palm / Blackout Kick, essentially fishing for Rising Sun Kick resets. And from there, that's sort of what you do until the buff ends, and then go back to casting what's needed depending on the fight. But yeah, keep in mind, this is optimal. However, it doesn't always have to be this way. There will be definitely instances where this cast sequence isn't something you'll use. Moving on. So what does our 4-piece even mean? We've talked a little bit about it just increasing healing by 450. So what actually is happening here? Well, increasing our healing by 450. But let's look at that in a more visual fashion so folks are a little bit easier to understand. So let's look at it sort of as a base healing because what it does is it adds that 450 to the base heal of the spell. First up, we have a base spell that heals for about 100 base. You can think of this more as like your hot ticks, your refreshing jade wind ticks, things like that. Without four piece, those things heal for 100 in our sort of, hypothetical situation. But now with four piece, those same abilities will heal for 550 baseline. And that's, of course, the 100 base healing plus 450 from the rune. And that's why you have the buff active. And it is dynamic, meaning if you step out of the buff or step out of the rune, all of your spells lose that plus 450. Similarly, if we have a larger spell, like a Vivify, that might heal for 5,000 base, adding a four-piece on now makes it heal for 5,450. Again, it's strictly additive. It just adds 450 to the base level healing. As you can see, smaller heals will benefit greatly from this buff. Essentially, they take them from healing from maybe just a trickle to actually making meaningful moves in a target's health pool or health bar. So things like Renewing Mist, Chi Burst, Refreshing Jade Wind, the Essence Bond Hot, things like that, even Enveloping Breath, I know I didn't put it here. All of those sort of benefit from four piece and the healing buff there. Again, the healing is also added to the baseline spell. What this means is it's added before versatility and critical strike. So again, it's like you take a basic spell without four piece, and it's 100. With four piece, that same basic healing or tooltip should breed 550. I don't know if the tooltip is dynamic in that regard, but that's basically what's happening. So as an example, you may have a spell that heals for 100 baseline and it crits without four piece. It's going to heal for 200 with that crit. It doubles it. However, if you now have four piece active, that same 100 baseline spell heals for 550, and if it crits, it's now 1100 crit. So as you can see, it's a huge sort of increase in the overall healing that's added while using four piece. And again, this four piece will either directly or indirectly affect pretty much any healing the monk does. So any healing that essentially emanates from the monk gets this 450 increase. Your mastery will be almost all of your hots. So all of your hots. Any spell that you can think of. Abe from the Peak Discord put together a great little spreadsheet to show it. But at the end of the day, it's like everything is somewhat affected by four piece. To actually visually see this, it's not visual in logs. So you will have to use something like WoW Analyzer. There's a module available that shows your healing increase from four piece. So take a look at that and you'll see that, it'll add, depending on the fight, but it'll add somewhere between, 2 and 4,000 HPS to you. So it's a great thing to use and ends up being a fairly substantial increase when you do get it. So that's it. Again, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to head over to Peak of Serenity Discord, check us out, hang out, ask questions, and of course, make fun of me if I've gotten any of this wrong. If not, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.